Tonight, a Norwegian MP calls for Equinor not to drill in the Great Australian Bight, and why regional patients are finding it harder to source medicinal cannabis.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf studios, your nightly news with Casey Treelaw begins now.
Good evening. A Norwegian Greens MP is calling on his government to put a halt on Equinor's plans to drill for oil in the Great Australian Bight. It comes as local politicians and environmental groups prepare to hold a protest against the drilling this weekend.
It's been a debate within the country for months and is now gaining international attention.
Fiskere, lokalbefolkning, næringsinteresser og urfolk på den andre siden av verden, i Australia, til en miljøkamp der Norge.
The Norwegian Greens Party calling for the state-owned oil and gas company Equinor to halt plans for drilling in the Great Australian Bight, with the government owning a 67% majority stake in the energy company.
Put a wrecking ball through our fishing and tourism industries and disrupt what is a beautiful, pristine marine wonderland.
South Australian Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young says the Norwegian government is being hypocritical by letting Equinor drill in Australia.
Norway is getting out of oil and gas drilling in their own territory, only then to let a state-owned company come to Australia and run the risk of an oil spill here.
The senator says the issues will be a big decider for the upcoming election.
Parliament must heed the concerns. We must work together to stop drilling in the Bight.
The proposed drilling sparking more protests around the region, with Port Lincoln to take to the water in a paddle out this Sunday from 10 a.m. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
A Port Lincoln man is calling for help after he says thieves stole his boat trailer on Sunday evening. After returning from a fishing trip, he found his trailer missing from the Axel Stenros boat ramp. It's a 2002 silver Dunbier with registration YEL 819. Anyone with information is being urged to call Crime Stoppers. GFG Alliance could soon be available to own on the stock market. Sanjeev Gupta says he's considering the move. However, the proposed float is unlikely to include its Whyalla investments. John Hunt has more.
When GFG bought Whyalla Steelworks owner Arium in 2017, the company moved off the stock exchange into private ownership. It could be a case of back to the future, with company owner Sanjeev Gupta considering a partial float of its Australian operations. Mr. Gupta told the UK's Daily Telegraph it's an option. He told the newspaper it increased transparency and proved to the world his business model can work. The plans come after concerns over the lawful delay of publishing accounts in the UK and late payments to suppliers here in the Steel City. It could raise up to $5 billion, which would fund his ambitious plans, including a massive renovation of the local steelworks. However, the company's Whyalla operations are unlikely to be part of the proposed public company just yet. It's understood between 30% and 40% of the Australian business would be listed. The Whyalla operations are likely to be kept under private ownership, as work continues to bring the steelworks back into profit. In a statement today, the company was more circumspect about the plans. GFG says the business is being prepared. In the event that market conditions are favourable, the company can assess the option.
The state's Upper House President Andrew McLaughlin says extra resources to support children and families are needed in Whyalla. He's continued his tour of the region, meeting with community groups and business leaders this morning. He says combating school truancy was a key topic. Mr. McLaughlin says while local groups are working well, there's a need for extra support.
It's a constant issue in the regions, getting services to the regions, but I know the government's very committed.
Mr. McLaughlin also says he's confident Whyalla is set for a positive future on the back of Sanjeev Gupta's plans for the city. Whyalla Council wants input from its residents into its stormwater management plan. Despite periodic flooding, Council has never previously developed a plan to manage the drain system. The document aims to identify issues that need fixing and the required solutions. To get involved, head to the Whyalla Council website for a copy of the survey. Submissions close March 28. The future of Port Augusta's wharf is again up in the air after marine engineers revealed the structure would require significant repair works to survive. Experts estimating the rebuild to cost about $11 million.
A giant price tag to fix our troubled wharf. The sudden closure of sections 2 weeks ago signalled some problems. Now the full extent of the damage has been revealed, with engineering firm Magrin Consulting advising council the 135-year-old structure has major problems.
Not only the bracings that are holding the pillars together are failing, the nuts and bolts that are rusted through and failing. There's a burrow worm interfering with the pylons as well.
On the surface, the decking is in good shape, but underneath is a different story. Consultants measured the condition of the structure on a 1 to 7 scale, with 7 being the most severe. All piles rated 5, 6 or 7. Engineers have recommended much of the wharf requires urgent attention, with estimated repair works to cost $11 million.
That's a lot of money. Our community can't afford that.
A decision on its future will be made in 2 weeks' time when the original report goes to council. And the news isn't great for the west side jetty either, with engineers recommending a total rebuild.
If money can save that or not, we're not sure from the first verbal report we got.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, why regional patients are finding it harder to access medicinal cannabis. And the last cruise ship for the season docks into Port Lincoln. Hello again. Regional South Australians suffering from life-threatening illnesses are finding it difficult to legally source or afford medicinal cannabis, with only a handful of doctors in the state authorised to prescribe the medication.
Legally accessing medical cannabis in regional areas continues to be an uphill battle for those doing it tough.
There are so many families and people that are in need of medicinal cannabis that can't access it.
Almost impossible for people to access medicinal cannabis. That's either because the system is too bureaucratic and complex, or indeed if they can get through the system, they can't afford it.
For York Peninsula-based advocate Diana Walter, the fight for better access has been personal, losing her father to prostate cancer.
The use of opiates to control his pain was so significant that he lost any contact with us.
Utilising cannabis as a substitute to opiates is growing in popularity. 3,100 people were approved the medication through the Therapeutic Goods Administration last year, yet thousands are still struggling to access it legally, with only a handful of doctors in the state holding an authorised prescription.
A broken federal law that was set up to fail. It should have never been a process that treated medicinal cannabis like other medications.
100,000 Australians self-medicate with cannabis through the black market.
Well, the bad news is it's hard to access in the regions, but it's actually hard to access right across the country.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Port Lincoln has welcomed its last cruise ship for the season, with the Pacific Eden docking in this morning, with the local markets and arts centre putting on an impressive display for the final visitors from sea.
It's the last ship to dock in Port Lincoln as the town winds down after a mammoth cruise season.
A very big season with 13 cruise ships in, one of them which is actually classified as a megaliner.
Today the town showcasing some of the talent and culture of our region, with a dozen markets popping up along the foreshore and arts centre.
The wonderful thing about these cruise ships is that they bring a big influx of visitors that come in the morning and hopefully enjoy our town's friendship.
Over the season, 36,000 people visited our coastal town, enjoying what we have to offer as well as adding millions of dollars to the local economy.
Well, the cutting boards back there had some beautiful sentimental wording on it, but I think I've got enough cutting boards at home.
Even the market owners were enjoying the day with plenty of food to go around.
I made Thai spring roll for a welcome customer from a cruise ship.
Royal Flying Doctor Service donut van here with the girls working their hearts out behind us, cooking donuts.
As well as raising funds for an important cause.
Get our name out there and just some community exposure and also do a bit of fundraising at the same time.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Award-winning speaker and thought-provoker Michael McQueen has paid a special visit to Port Pirie, preparing teachers and industry leaders in how to equip today's students for the future.
From autonomous cars to 3D printers, Michael McQueen is excited about what the future entails for Port Pirie's next generation, touching on the skills and competencies that young people will need in order to be future fit.
The trends that people have heard about but often haven't considered the impact they're going to have, so looking at what that means and how to gear up for it.
The award-winning speaker sharing his knowledge with Port Pirie's teaching community at Memorial Oval.
My goal is that people leave constructively uncomfortable, that they leave with that sense that things are not going to be the same in the future than they've been in the past, that we're about to encounter massive changes in the years ahead.
Teachers gaining an understanding of how STEM programs will be beneficial towards students' future job prospects. Handling artificial intelligence, robotics and automation will no longer be localised to city centres.
Work will be far less location specific. We're going to find that telecommuting, working remotely will be possible in a way we've never seen before.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Volunteers from Apex clubs from around regional Australia will this week be celebrated as part of National Apex Week. In Port Augusta, the community group is this year set to reach a milestone of raising over $1 million to help cancer-affected families.
For volunteer Greg Kipling, the Apex Club has been a big part of his life.
I joined Apex in the early 80s and I was honoured with life membership in 2000.
He originally got involved in the service club to meet people.
It certainly was. Like I said, I got mates here and all over Australia through Apex.
Volunteers like Greg and President Aaron Huxtable will this week be celebrated as part of National Apex Week. Even with only 6 volunteers, the Port Augusta Club still manages to do its bit for the local community.
We're involved with the cinema for an event called Kids Flicks. We do the Australia Day breakfast with the other service clubs.
As well as the annual Wharffest event, which in 2019 will mark its 45th year. But the sight of postie bikes battling outback terrain in a bid to raise funds to help families affected by cancer is one of the club's proudest spectacles. And this year the ride will notch a significant milestone.
From when it started in 2007, this year will have raised $1 million.
The ride will take place in August and will be dedicated to the late Apex member Justin Vomard, who passed away with cancer last year. Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Time now for this week's Fuel Watch. Here's Patrick in Broken Hill.
It's been a terrible week for regional fuel prices. Make sure you're on the lookout for places selling it cheaper and even bust out those shopper dockets. Starting with unleaded, and it's not a pretty sight, red everywhere. Port Lincoln has become the most expensive in the Spencer Gulf after climbing by 2 cents to average $1.38. Whyalla and Port Augusta have also jumped by 2 cents to sit on $1.36 and $1.32. Port Pirie has managed to stay relatively even on $1.33. It's joined by Kadina, who saw a 3 cent spike. Broken Hill is paying $1.40, but that's not as bad as Adelaide. After weeks of low prices, the city has seen a big increase of 20 cents, it's now paying $1.47. Turning over to diesel now, and it's more of the same, except for Broken Hill, which has actually seen a small decrease. Port Lincoln and Whyalla have both gone up to $1.49, Lincoln seeing a small change of 4 cents. Port Augusta and Port Pirie are on $1.47, Kadina not too far behind. Adelaide has also been hit with a red arrow, the price there the same as Kadina, $1.46. Taking a quick look at Autogas, and there's been a few changes. A couple of places have seen red. Kadina the worst affected, going up by 5 cents. Whyalla is the best performer by far. The Steel City seeing a lovely 6 cent drop to only be paying 93 cents. Now remember, these prices are the regional averages and they do not reflect any one particular outlet. And if you do find a spot that does sell unleaded, diesel or auto gas for cheaper, be sure to let us know on our Facebook page.
Stay with us. After the break, we'll take a look at the sports results across the region and we'll have all the weather details. Welcome back. Time now for local sport, and it was a big week for tennis in Broken Hill. Patrick Reinke joins me now from the local courts, and there were some peculiar scorelines in the recent round, Pat.
Yeah, there was, Casey. All 4 matches in the recent A-grade fixture all had 3 sets to 1 results, but even the games were similar as well. 3 out of the 4 winning teams won a total of 25 games, the other 24 games, and the losing side scored either 15 or 16 games. Taking a look at the matches, the competition welcomed back Lance Barron for his first night of tennis in a while. He managed to get a good win over Peter Keenan of the Swallows. A special mention must also go to young Josh Niaros from Forehands. The junior recorded his 3rd straight singles win, playing in his first A-grade tennis season. Moving on from tennis, and we go down to Port Pirie for some basketball. Tom Cats got over the Globetrotters by 18 points. Braden Anderson and Anthony Oliphant were in good touch for the Tomcats. In the other game, with 2 rounds left to play, Pacers closed the gap on ladder leaders the Ducks with an 8-point win. Over in Whyalla, and the minor rounds are all over. Wildcats will carry good form into the grand final after beating the Roos. The Roos will play the Titans in this week's prelim final. To Port Augusta, where it was the Titans and Wildcats also getting victories there. And back to Broken Hill for a new addition to Sports Wrap. We have the local bocce results. Wednesday nights at the Napradeck Club. Thanks for sending the results through. In Division 1, it's the 1st to 12. Grono Wigan and Triple D's had solid wins. Tweakers bested Alco Penguins, and the Drop-Ins won a nail-biter against Falcons. So Casey, that does it for local sport for another week.
And time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather. Well, it was a mostly sunny day across the Gulf today, with Port Augusta the warmest, reaching a top of 29 degrees. Whyalla 25, Port Lincoln 23, Broken Hill and Port Pirie 27, and it was 23 in Adelaide. On the satellite today, cloud over southern parts of SA with cool and unstable southerly winds triggering the odd light shower. Skies are otherwise clear due to a broad high in the southwest. Looking at the waters for tomorrow, south to southwesterly winds around 15 to 20 knots. Seas at 1 metre, and the sun will rise at 7:16 tomorrow morning with sunset just after 7:40 p.m. Perfect temperatures almost everywhere for tomorrow, and with plenty of sunshine. Port Augusta set for a top of 32 degrees, Whyalla 27, Port Lincoln 24, Coffin Bay 22, Woodner and Corn 31, Broken Hill and Port Pirie 30, Clare 28, Cleve 25, Kadina 28 and Adelaide sunny and 26. Moving ahead to the end of the week, and there's plenty more fine temperatures into the weekend. It will be fine in Port Lincoln, temperatures moving into the high 20s. Cleve will warm up with 32 degrees on the way for Saturday, and some hot days coming up for Woodner, 36 on Saturday and 37 by Sunday. A warm and sunny one for Whyalla with a top of 33 degrees across the weekend. Port Augusta temperatures also soaring with 36 Saturday, 37 on Sunday. Kadina in for a warm weekend, also 33 Saturday, 34 on Sunday. Port Pirie also in for a warm weekend, 34 Saturday and 35 for Sunday. A bit cooler for Clare, 28 for Friday, and Broken Hill 34 by Saturday. And that's all for tonight's weather, and that's the local news this Wednesday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.